All right, 1-0. Welcome back to AoE4 action for some more Elite Classic 2 recap. I need to get an editor so that can be smashed on the screen word by word like I'm a movie from the 90s. Whew. And I think we've got some... Wait, have we got 90 kids here? I think Zerton might be a 90s kid. I'm not sure about Wham. I think Wham is just about like a incy-wincy baby 90s kid. I think it's like 26, 27 if I remember correctly. So we've got Wham versus Zerton in a best of 3 in the group stage. This was towards the tail end of the group stage, and I'm told that this was a very close series. Wham's early 2000s? Really? I thought Wham was like 24. Maybe 25? Did they actually have that age on their the Wikipedia? 1999. Take that, Zoomers! 24 would be, yeah, like 24 would be, but apparently he's 1999, so 25 or 26 years old. There we go. Boom. Zerton, I'm pretty sure, is close to 30. I think he's a little bit more reserved on those details. I don't think that much has been made public, but you know what the interesting thing is? When you like start becoming more and more successful as a player, that info all becomes more public because you're going to appear at tournaments and stuff's going to be like seen. Like right now, like Zerton, very talented player. I think a lot of people would agree Zerton is very capable, but he's yet to be in a LAN environment, so we still don't actually have a... I think we do have a mugshot on EGC side, but he's at the stage where even his Wikipedia doesn't actually have a picture yet. Very talented player, though. I feel like anytime I see Zerton grinding, he has an account in the top 20. So he's always been like on the edge of being capable enough. Finally, we see him making it into a main event. Unfortunately, the group stage has not been kind to Mr. Zerty. Zerton basically going in the series didn't have much of a chance. He was trailing behind Anatan by like 1 series already. He's sitting in 6th place. And I think he was at 3 wins, 5 losses when they went for this final round. So at this stage, Zerton guaranteed had no way of making it into the playoffs. But every series is worth monies, right? You get $25 for each win, so it's worth playing on through. We open the series with Delhi versus Byzantines, which we really need to start getting onto addressing because that is a weird matchup. When did you last see a Delhi versus Byzantine matchup? This has to play a lot like the English, right? But with a bit more flexibility and capability to defend. I think this matchup isn't too bad for the Byzantines because their timing's got a bit more aggressive in the early phases, so they can maybe contest what the Delhi do. But I'd still say this is a matchup that should slightly favor the Delhi due to the fact that they force you out onto the map. And most Byzantine players are looking most powerful when they can either start the aggro at the beginning of Feudal Age or survive on defense until Castle. See which build he wants to do. We're going to stay on the 2 times in the opener here. Tower of Victory on the way on one side. Grand Rhino would come from the other. We should be seeing a pretty typical opening into the stables from the Delhi. You could maybe argue going towards Archers and Spearmen first and focusing on Sacred Sites is better because your opponent has Limitane. My counter-argument is your goal with Ghazi isn't to dive the base. Your goal with Ghazi is to control the mid-map. Merkhouse now already being dropped. So Wham, already knowing exactly what contract he wants to go into. That's what we're seeing here. Anytime someone builds a Merkhouse this early before they've gathered olive oil, it's because they know the contract and they're not going to be hit off it at all. So we're probably going to be seeing Western here. Interesting. Dude, he goes Eastern. That I did not expect. It's not a bad idea though, right? Like Keshik's to deal with the Ghazi makes a lot of sense. You can set up archers behind this pretty standard. I thought he might try to turtle a little bit, maybe even think about Castle, but now that I think about it, even if you go Castle Age, this is kind of an interesting choice, right? Because if you go Castle Age, you get access to Ghulams. And if Delhi's army is going to still be feudal, everything is countered by Ghulams, right? You have the movement speed to gap close quite quickly. You have the double strike, which is fantastic against no melee armor units, of which the Delhi's entire army has no melee armor. So it's not a terrible choice. It also gives him this ramp-up timing where the first Ghulams can be used to build a siege weapon on the go, right? So if you're fighting mid-map, and let's say you clear all the Ghazi and it's only archers left over, you now have something to kind of snowball you. Definitely kind of interesting take on the comp. We don't see Eastern Contract much. I'd say Eastern Contract is by far of the 3 contracts the least explored. Typically, I'd say about 50% of games, actually, no, 55 or 60% of games are Western Contract. Maybe like 20% of games-ish is Javelins now. Like Silk Road has been on the rise a little. And then the remnants, even putting what remains of that as Eastern contract feels generous. Actually, it'd be like 25% then. So like, there's definitely more Silk Road than there is Eastern. Eastern, I'd say like half of those games we do see, its numbers have been just fake boosted by the fact that people play Hippodrome. And I can guarantee you there's not many Hippodrome winners these days. So raiding in with the initial Ghazi though. Walls have not fully gone up yet. It looks like there was a little bit of blocking going on here. Limitane at least now arriving. Villager is going to try to pull away. Body block's not quick enough though. And that wasn't Agratoy, right? That's interesting. He did activate it. It's just the UI is being a bit weird. So it is on cooldown now by the looks of it. Zerton has got more Ghazi coming, but now he faces off against Limitane, Keshiks. What's really important for Wham is getting this wall up. It gives him enough olive oil to get a decent quantity of Keshiks together, but right now it's costing him dearly. Zerton able to strike a second villager off the list. Now, it doesn't immediately kill off Wham. Remember, for a start, like he's got this system effect, so 14% better on all of his eco right now. On the flip side, Zerton is only being more efficient on 8 of his villages, right? So like Wham has a very big lead collectively with his economy. That means even when he's a villager behind like this, he's not really. What's interesting to me is the fact that, you know, there's meant to be a 2 eco difference. There seems to be like a 1.5 villager difference. So Zerton missed out on eco production at some point. Wow, second group Keshiks are now on the way. Pretty much the last of the olive oil just being tapped dry here. Will not be enough to get a third stack of Keshiks out, remember. They cost a little bit, a tiny bit too much, actually. Actually, sorry, no, they're 400, aren't they? I'm an idiot. Yeah, we were talking about this before, like this, the changes that are coming around the contract expense won't affect Keshik count at all, but it might have an impact on, I think, maybe the Silk Road contract and how many you can get out of the initial berries. So, third Keshik group on the way. This is actually a lot better now that I think about it that way. Like, Grand Winery getting your first batch of berries to give you 3 Keshiks, aka 6 Keshiks, because they come out in 2s. That's a very strong timing. Now, Zerton does have good timings of his own, right, as the Delhi. He's going to be playing on his sacred sites. Right now, Wham doesn't have an army that wants to come out and play with that. He still needs to secure himself at home, because the Ghazi are keeping him pinned in. If he runs out now into the mid-map, the Ghazi are going to go into his economy. I'm curious as well, actually. Like, we've seen plenty of matchups where the outcome seems undeniably cut and dry. This one is not one of them. 1's in chat if you favor the Byzantines, 2 if Delhi. Don't even think about the players right now. Think about the Civ matchup. Because I think, like, getting into this with the standard Lombo Jav contract, it seems like a turtle and a bit of a gamble. But, like, this build from the Byzantines with the Keshiks, I like the idea of. Delhi, in most cases, I would still lean towards. But, like, I think that Keshiks is... I don't want to say it's going to be the X factor, but it's, to me, unexplored territory with this comp. Like, we're used to seeing Mongols try this against Delhi and it looks bad. The difference is, and it's similar to why, like, English are failing but Byzantines are succeeding. The difference is that this unique unit that they get access to, they have a better economy to support it, right? Like a 14% better economy than you get out of either the Mongols or the English for those type of, like, build-ups, right? Well, actually, it's more than that. We highlighted this earlier. Because there's 20% extra resources, you're a 14% increased gathering rate, and then you're getting 20% extra that you just wouldn't get as either the English or the Mongols. It's kind of nuts when you think about it that way. Like, I don't know, man. I think Byzantines, the patch that's coming that's going to drop before Grand Finals, mark my words, Byzantines are about to be like the most hotly contested pick. I wouldn't even be surprised if people start banning them. I wouldn't even be surprised if people start picking them first pick. Like, they are that level of quality now. Still think you have to ban the Rus and Ottomans as a priority, but we might actually see a switch up from Vortex and Luciphron in particular, considering that they've been letting Ottomans through. I'm just curious as to whether they think that Byzantine works well with their strategies, because we haven't seen many Byzantine games out of the Spanish bros. We have, however, seen a lot of out of the Canadians. Puppy Paw and Wham between them tend to prioritize the Byzantines quite a bit. Usually like 3rd or 4th pick. I think in this particular draft it might have been the 3rd pick. Yeah, 3rd pick. 4th pick in this one for Wham was the Abbasids, which is a peculiar choice, but I like the Abbasids as a flexi 4th pick just because there's sometimes the way the draft plays out, they get very selective matchups that just favor them. I don't think Abbasids is a go-to Civ. I don't think even with the upcoming patch they're going to be a go-to Civ. But I do think that in tournament play, they are still a decent mid-tier civ. Zertan splitting off the Ghazi, trying to go in. That means it's going to be weaker to defend on the sacred site, though, so it should be a free decap. Wham! Pretty sizable army, actually. Respectable force here. Like, you've got better spearmen, but admittedly the downside, right, is that you haven't got the attack speed buffer. The nice thing, though, is if Zertan doesn't micro like a god, he's going to end up hitting a shield wall. And that's going to mean half of your effective firepower on these archers is gone. So what was a 20% increased attack speed? It's great, but realistically at that stage you're doing 60% of your intended damage if you were attacking with a normal archer versus a normal spear, right? So it's pretty rough. For Wham, it's just more about don't throw the Keshiks into spears. Everything else is an A-click. Plasma attacks are being mirrored so far. I'd like to see Wham just skirt towards a tech up now. It's a little bit greedy, but I think you have a sizable army. And remember, the cool thing about the Byzantines, the thing that makes them so insane, isn't just their feudal presence, it's how clean and smooth their transition is into Castle Age, all because of the Dialecticus effect. There's a reason Dialecticus got nerfed. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets nerfed again. I think 30, 60, 90 still feels a bit too strong. 25, 50, 75 makes a lot more sense. Ghazi are at least going to chip away. So nice little strike on the backside. So far, it's a free Vil split because his Keshiks on the other side just found Zertan out on the berries. Wow, and he overburdened it as well. Sent out additional villages there. Well played by Wham. So this is the idea with the Keshiks and why he leaned into them, right? Like, they're good at mirroring Ghazi, but then they're much better at sniping eco. And that's the reality of the Delis. They're going to move out into these pocket ecos. And you know your Delhi pickers. They're typically going to send more than 5 villages out. They might build one outpost for like an early warning, but they're definitely not going to have enough safety for everyone there. And I just spotted a Byzantine main in my chat. The fact that he even spelt Dialecticus correctly tells you he's a Byzantine main. A little bit of a hit to the Keshiks. We'll get back behind the wall. Zertan wants to break in here, not just because of the pocket ecos, but because of the paranoia that maybe Wham is trying to tech up. This is scary, though. Wham has an insane amount of archers coming out. Keshiks are kind of split across the map, but you can say the same thing of the Ghazi, right? Speaking of which, Ghazi are trying to raid in. New archers are coming out, and this is a slow reaction out of Wham. Actually just send the Keshiks to spin back home, rather. Villages are not being pulled back, and that is leading to losses here. Get out the other side. Standing his ground on the left, though. Archers trying to hold back against. There's going to be a backstab coming in for the Ghazi. That's going to draw fire. Wham will be able to move away, though. Archer mass is still to his favor here, and this is a problem now. Zertan, he just lost a fight he can't afford to lose. Militarily, he was already a mile behind, and now the distance is building. I am perplexed by this choice to hang around for that engagement. I didn't mind the idea of Zertan just fighting initially to distract so the Ghazi went in, but pulling them into that mess? This is now a problem. In a game where he's now playing more and more pocketed resources with more and more villages, these Keshiks are going to still keep coming. But the difference is now Wham doesn't need to think about using them for the main engagement. He can just send them to raid. His army is big enough to fight you in the main. I also am kind of confused as to Zertan's like priority here. Like, the weird part is I think archers should just be your go-to. Yes, you're up against Keshiks, but Keshiks aren't royal knights, right? They're actually less tanky, so you can snipe them down with mass archer. Playing into spears kind of feels like you're playing into your opponent's advantage. I get that he doesn't like the Limitane, and I can feel where he's coming from here. But this type of archery just kind of feels unheard of, I want to say, in this matchup. Like, it's still, what, a level 2 system effect? This is crazy. I'm really impressed by what Wham has done here. So what's Zertan's options now? I think, realistically, you're probably just left with a tech up. If you play a prolonged feudal any longer, you're just going to die anyway. Like, this military lead is getting way too big. The interesting thing about the Byzantines as well, that makes them like a nice kind of mid-ground against the Delhi. We mentioned Dialecticus when you tech up, but Conscriptio in the meantime. The increase is given you a level 2. You add in 2 archer ranges, you're at 3 archer ranges worth, right? Like, it's kind of, it's a mini Delhi military efficiency effect. And you have to remember, this is a Delhi Tower Victory build, which means no additional scholars coming out. So actually, he's a mile ahead on production. That's why he has so many more archers. And now, alongside all that, he has a tech up. Golden Horn Tower on the way. I'm wondering how Zertan could have played this differently. I really like the Ghazi raids. I guess you just don't look for the main fight the whole time. Because realistically, the longer this feudal age drags out, like you can argue the system's buffing him up, but eventually Wham is going to end up with 200 pop, and you're going to have 200 pop as well. If you force a fight there, you know, you're not going to be outnumbered in that engagement. And Ghazi would still chip the eco. I guess the paranoia there is, once again, though, that if you do that, your opponent can just tech up. And, like, you know, what is a tech up worth? 20 population? At 200, sure. If you're 180 versus 200, but you've got Castle Age with the veterancy unlock speed of the Byzantines, you're fine. Maybe walling these in would have been the approach. Like, realistically, Wham doesn't have a good breakthrough army. It's mainly just archers. So he could have maintained Sacred Sites longer with walls. Wham. Tech up complete. This is where Zertan's thought process is, oh, crap. He's probably nodding his head. He's like, I expected him to do this soon. I thought I could maybe pull the trigger sooner. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Compounded Defender coming in behind. And that means Archer upgrade now being rushed towards right, just 20 seconds away. This engagement that is going to be forced, Zertan will not have a chance in hell of getting his upgrade in. He has a deadweight feudal army. The best thing you can look to do right now, take it around the back, send it into the enemy base. The problem is, if Wham feels the exact same way, and he sends his into your base, they're going to do a lot more damage. Veterancy also being queued up. Wham. Could switch over to Ghulams, right? We mentioned this earlier, that Ghulams is pretty good at defending against mass feudal armies. Also gives him a possibility of building into mangoes on the defensive. Varangian being queued up though. Keshiks have arrived in the back. Looks like they'll get pushed away by the spawning spears. Weird that we're not seeing Wham commit to that dive. Instead, he's just looking to trade out the army. So surely the push comes here and then across map, right? Like this secures the wall, but you now should be pushing towards the enemy base. This is weirdly giving Zertan time that I think he doesn't deserve in this game. But we have to remember that we have God vision on this. From Wham's perspective, he's playing quite a blind and defensive game. And he is still up against a Civ that could have still been building Ghazi. They'll be moving the Lancers now. And they still have this unaccounted for huge feudal army, right? So, doesn't want 50 archers walking in here for good reason. Speaking of those archers, a few have arrived ahead of schedule here. So, they're going to spot the walls going up. Main army's moving in. Certain. Only thing you can do right now is cut reinforcements. Those reinforcements don't actually die that quickly, though. These Varangian will be taking 1 damage, right? So yeah, he needs to find the squishy boys. The crossbows, the archers, or the economy. Unfortunately, he's delayed compared to Wham. Wham already into the main base. Archers just trying to cut those reinforcements. Varangian are going to be tanking quite a bit here. But are outnumbered. Wham. He's pulling a few troops home as the Varangian's going home, but the archers are going to go deeper. Looking to idle this all out. Zertan, not really at a point where he has an army that he can defend with either. These Lancers, they charge into this many archers, they are just dead. Guess they're going to be dead then. They're actually running into it. Other side of it's going to shift to the back side. Keshiks and the Varangian are now spawning. A few Ghulams could be coming out soon as well, and it looks like it's going to be a wipe of the backside army. Zertan, only 32 archers left here. Meanwhile, on the other side, check the size of this bad boy force. 57 archers stand their ground. Lancers are all dead. Zertan, with no answer to this, surely is going to be tapping out in a matter of moments. They'll hang around for a little bit longer, right? Like, archers are at least trading out a bit, but now the eco's being hit. GG's going to get called. Game 1 will be a win for the Canadian. An interesting matchup as well. Byzantines, I'm not sure if I'd say 100% they are always going to be favored here. Interesting enough, actually, if we look at the statistics at the highest level of play, Byzantines up against the Delhi, in pubs at least, are at a 40% win rate. But you know what we always say, right? Like, Delhi, not easily measured on ladder. I would say, I agree it's in that kind of vicinity. I would still lean a favor for the Delhi. But I think the issue in that game is that Zerton, he kind of just forced the fight either too early or too late, right? Like, it sounds like a cop-out to see either, but like, I think there was a moment he could have went earlier. Otherwise, he needed to wait until later. He'd reached a stage in the game where his goal was to raid with Ghazi and chip away. Instead, he just commits into this main fight next to the enemy base where they have superior production to you. And it leads to that awkward snowball effect afterwards. So, point on the board for Wham. But we've got more to come. So, let me get the second game ready. We just opened on Dry Arabia. What did I say the rest of the draft was? So, I said we had Dry Arabia to open with. And then the rest of the draft is Coastal Cliffs and Gorge. So Coastal Cliffs is up next. Looking at their drafts, we're probably going to be seeing a Chinese versus... Is it an Ayyubid's game? I think it's Chinese versus... Yep, Chinese versus Ayyubids. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Wham could have potentially went for Jeanne, but I just think that's a bit too much of a gamble with what your opponent's got left. If you have Jeanne left over for either Juji or English, you're really favored here. So, you know, this is a pretty tough one. Zerton, he may have a decent matchup in game number 2, because I actually think Ayyubids is decent against Chinese. Your timing is just better. But game 3 is now a big question mark for me. I think if we go there, Zerton, I think you have to avoid English. I think you have to go Juji. Did we say it was on Gorge as well? Oh, I have a feeling that's going to push him to English. Which is tough. I'm not kidding when I say Jeanne D'Arc hard counters English. Which is ironic considering real-world history, but we'll see if we get there. Let's hop into the second game. So, point on the board for Wham here. Let me just switch that around because it's showing the wrong side of it. We hop into game number 2. Nothing but perfection now from here on out for Zerton, and this is at least a way of ensuring you should get to game 3. This matchup, Chinese, outside of some weird kind of crazy out-of-the-bag plays, this is going to be your pretty standard Ayyubids go fast castle. They get relics off the map. So curious to see what Wham's solution to that threat is going to be. We're going to hit the 2x speed here. That is surprising, actually. Zerton, he somehow looks like he's darted forward of the Chinese scout, which shouldn't be happening. This scout, obviously not faster, but it has better vision. You should be able to see where your opponent is and out-rotate him. But Zerton, cut the center of the map. Means he's off to a decent start here. Meanwhile, Wham, man, he's getting scraps. I think he's going to make up for it here, get up to like 10 sheep. But on the other side of it, Zerton, dude, he's going to go for the dive-in. Oh, that is so gross. So this is why Ayyubids feels really good on this map. He yoinks all of them. Berry sieves, guys. Like, this is why Delhi feels great on this map. This is why Ayyubids feel great on this map. You are able to play a wide rotation because your villagers go to the berry straight away. It means he's going to get 2/3 of the sheep on this map, maybe more. It's a 6 sheep haul versus what is likely to be a 15, if not 16 sheep haul. That is brutal for Wham. So Wham, right now, he's going to be going Imperial Academy. He needs to consider the Barbican to secure resources, which feels bad because that means you're not doing anything to deny the fast castle age of the Ayyubids. Here's another spooky part. Ayyubids are probably going to be going for the reinforcement wing. And because you've gone Imperial Academy first, your Barbican play is now at risk. If you play it too far forward, say here, for the boar and the deer, that means the Desert Raider could block you out. This is really, really punishing for the Chinese. Weirdly enough, Zerton actually is going to play Greed. So, Growth Wing, Advancement Wing, I guess. I don't blame him for this, right? Like, realistically, the timing on Desert Raider, although it can sometimes hit, it's also a little bit risky because we know China's eco is just very aggressive in the early game, right? The Imperial officials guarantee that. So I think Zerton just wanted the safe choice. Typically, the way that you choose between Growth and Military Wing here, if you're up against a greedy Civ, you go for Desert Raider. The logic is like, for example, if they are just looking for Fast Castle, or they're a Civ that are looking for 2 TC, you go for Desert Raider because the Desert Raider can block those objectives, right? On the flip side, you can also fit it in when you're up against, say, something like what we see from the Ottomans, where they open with spears, or the Mongols as well, because it also blocks their play. Anything else falls under the purview of Growth Wing. Growth Wing is just going to always, at this stage in the game, be a 15% increase in your economy at the early point in the game. It's insane how big of a difference free villagers are when you think about it that way. So, what is his response going to be? What's his solution? Because Now, with this being a growth wing, the logic the Zertans basically emphasized here is you can't stop me teching. You will not do anything to stop my timing. So I will just take the greedy option. So now the onus is essentially on Wham to try and block him some way. Do some sort of pressure play. I've got a feeling with the way that we're seeing Wham play this, though, there's no pressure coming. He's probably targeting a fast castle build. You can't go multi-TC here. I've seen a few people play Chinese on this map. The ones that succeed are the ones that play some sort of all-in feudal play, or they rush castle with like a Nestabe's Palace Guard play. Any that go for multi-TC early on die, because look at where the stone spawns. It's so insanely far away. Oh, we're getting the aggression out of Zertan. So what, archers and... Do you even... No, you don't desert raid here, right? I mean, you could. The more I think about that build, it's kind of wild, right? Like, it's expensive, but think about this. Archer plus Desert Raider, your entire army is ranged. And then if they counter you with Horsemen, you just switch into melee form. Looks like it's just going to be the standard one, though, the Horseman Archer. Makes a lot more sense. The problem with the Desert Raider approach, as much as I like it, it's too expensive to do at this stage of the game. 180 resources compared to 120. The problem with these early engagements is, especially when you've got like a cavalry element, you just kind of want to get bulk so you can get impact from that mobility. Because having like one or two, you don't get the opportunity to run past something and grab it, right? But with Horsemen, you could more cost-effectively reach that scale. Wow, I'm on the other side of this though, dude. He didn't drop Barbican. What? You can't just play Archer here, right? I mean, Chiganu would make sense. Like, Chiganu are good against the Horsemen as well, but like Archer only on a turtle-ish format. He knows his opponent isn't going greedy as well. That's the other thing, right? Like, he sees this, he sees with the scout. I think what happened here is Wham was genuinely trying to get the Barbican. He scouted the Horseman play, and now he's had to make the worst choice possible here, right? Going into Archers when you really would have preferred Chiganu on a delay. Oh, this is tough. I mean, you have to remember now, like, what happens. Wham's timing's become skewed. Song Dynasty hasn't been activated, so he's not scaling his eco lead at all. And now you're in a situation where Zertan gets to dictate when this stops, right? Like, he's forced you to build spears and archers as a result. Zertan is going to be the one to decide first between the two who stops producing, right? And when Zertan stops producing, Wham isn't going to realize it straight away. He's going to fear it. But by the time he realizes what's happened, you could be looking at advancement already being triggered. Yeah, this is like a really powerful play right now for the Ayyubids. And by playing the longer feudal age, he's getting access to more buildings, right? It's getting him close to that tier 2. So it means that when he is finally ready to age up, he's going to be able to immediately upgrade these archers. Well, not immediately, but saves himself a third of the time it takes. Barbican now on the way from Wham. Oh, man. He's going more greedy with it. That's not many spearmen. Oh my god, I think Wham misread this. Archers. Don't risk it. One spear about to die. Horseman just committing. So the counter to this is dead. Archer's going to turn over onto the villagers, and that's going to be a cancel. Wham will not be able to get it up. Oh, dude, this is brutal. He's denied his Song Dynasty. He's refusing to cancel it, but he might not have a choice here. Wham! If he just had 2 more spearmen, that would have been successful. But instead, he misread the quantity here. He expected 2 or 3 horsemen in total. So in the end, Barbican is going to be cancelled, resummoned elsewhere. Even this feels ambitious now, though. Check out the count. We've still got a group of archers out here. We've got more horsemen coming. Wham! He hasn't added in more spears. He's about, like, he's out of food as well. This is crazy, man. I can't believe this. He didn't set up the mill and the berries. He has no flexibility here. I mean, if you're Zertan, you just dive this, right? Like, 100% he's moving in now. Horseman around the back. Villagers. That's a second cancel! Oh, man. At what point do you just nod and say 15 villagers go, right? Like, yeah, you've got to. But now it has to be right next to the TC. You can't even go this wide. Dude, this game actually might be over. Zertan's not letting up now, man. Like, this is the point in the game usually where an Ayyubid player says, okay, tech up time. Why would you? Like, you have no reason to stop now. Wham has revealed that he has no food. This is all the result of the sheep count at the start of the game. The sheep count at the start of the game led to this desperation. It meant that he couldn't have had 2 more spearmen because he couldn't actually afford it to get that Barbican up. It meant that he needed to rush for that Barbican because he didn't have any food source at home. This game by Zern has basically been decided by the scouts at the beginning. 15 villagers. Make it 16 now. He's going to dive again. Horseman. Immediately going to get attacked here, but the spearman's already gone. Wham. Only 1 more spearman to work with. Yes, this Barbican is going to go up, but the damage has been done at this stage. Wham. So much idle time. He's missed production, right? Like, he's missed out on a lot at this stage. He's going to be resetting the move by Zert, and you already see him starting to stockpile up the resources, so this is just going to be an age up behind this for Zert. And then this game is pretty much cut and dry, right? Like, Wham is a mile behind the stage. Think about what he actually secured with this Barbican. 1,500 food, and then you're dead. So he's going to wall up here to secure another 1,500, sorry, 2,000 here. But these are not great gathering rates. And also, this is not for free. Like, your army's still not big enough to stop them from blocking you here, dude. This is so annoying. So what way could Wham now win this? Wham's probably thinking, I now need to get out onto the stone. Like, whether I like it or lump it, the only way I play this is, like, multi-TC and scale. And all-in Shiganu timing is too late now, right? Like, that's not going to work. So, for Wham, I don't want to say it, but, like, he might even end up in a situation where he has to granary the backside. He needs to scale in feudal before even thinking about castle. But that's scary to do against the Ayyubids because they're power spikes, right? That means they're going to get access to their relics. They're going to get access to potentially a TC boom of their own. Just puts you 2 steps behind instead of the 1 you already are. And, dude, are you kidding me? Zertin pulls 5 villages for a fort outpost to take the deer away. Archers, in the meantime, are going to start diving. Wham, doesn't have an army together yet. All right, scrap that. Zertin is not going for an age up. He's going all in. Oh, sorry, it's already on the way. Jesus Christ. How does he have 24 archers still at this stage? He dove a Barbican. He was under it while it was constructed. I can't believe this. And this is the upcoming lad I've been talking about, right? Like, you know, we've highlighted before that Zertin's a very talented player. We've seen it before. We've seen it on the ladders time and time again. Showing up and just showing you just how bloody strong the Ayyubids can be on coastal cliffs. Archers just keep pushing back here, right? Now Wham doesn't have much he can access. He's had to go desperate onto the berries on the flank. That's the only upside, is that he sees where Zertin is. The unfortunate reality is, like, you know, this type of game, the way this is played out, your game sense is completely off. Wham might not even be sure whether the tech up's underway until he scouts it, right? Like, you can suspect it, but with the amount of troops that Zertin keeps sending out, you might also think he's just all-inning you. He's about to get the bad news, though. Golden Age 2 is about to trigger as well. I love this timing. Check this. Stable's about to complete. Golden Age 2 will come in, and that means this archery upgrade is going to be much quicker. So it's going to save himself, at this pace, about 17 seconds in the process. That's actually a really big difference here. Yeah, look at that. Went from 52 to 32, actually. Good lord. Well, probably 50 to 32. It can take off 20 seconds at max, right? Because it's 50% quicker research speed. Now, I know what someone's about to say. KP, your math sucks. P2. 50% quicker on... Like, 50% rather of 1 minute is 30 seconds. But remember, it's 50% quicker. It's not 50% of the starting time. So, hence why it's 20 seconds off. Wham, what's he going to do with this castle age? Because if you play Palace Guard, like, it's rough. Palace Guard against mass archers with the extra steeled arrow upgrades, which they had surely going to be prioritizing here, right? And Mamluk's Bravery, you died to. Nesta Bees is probably his one hope. It's very difficult against this Civ because they can build Springalds out in the field though, right? So that's like a difficulty that Wham still needs to adjust for. Archers. Now diving in. Interesting that he's willing to, like, trade out. Like, this is at least going to give some false hope over to Wham. The reason why he's going for this dive already is, remember, he has got the veterancy through, but no level 2 ranged armor, no level 2 ranged damage increase. Means that Wham is at least going to get what I call false hope here. Astronomical clock tower's on the way. Zertin has queued up the first dervish. we're looking at a 5-relic game. There's no denying it here. Lancers are already arriving as well, and that is something that Wham has absolutely zero answers for. Dude, the game sense on Zertan right now. He knows it's happening. Oh, no! Wait, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 5 times a landmark has been denied in this game? I can't believe that. This is GG, man. Get me out. 5 landmarks denied in one game. That is crazy. I have to make a note of that. I think that's what that video is going to be called. Crazy. So game 2 is going to be an even up. Zertan gets himself back into this. And remember, that was needed, right? He lost the first. So let's get a point on the board for the lad. Glad to see him being able to turn up here. The question now is who wins out in the final? Because I mentioned that these drafts going the distance do not favor Zertan. He's got English usually left over. This is a no-brainer for Wham. He doesn't, like, he can just pick Jeanne D'Arc and not even think about the pick by his opponent, because either way, Jeanne D'Arc is favored in this matchup, and that's exactly what he done. Is Jeanne D'Arc from Wham? Anyone want to take a guess which way Zertan goes? Juji or English? We've even got some pros in the chat. So if you had the choice, guys, like, which one do you think would fare better? Juji or English against Jeanne? We're on Gorge, by the way. English? So, English puts the idea forward that you have to attack, and that's difficult against Jeanne. Juji could at least try to say, I'm going to camp at home, and I'm not going to come out, and you have to break me. I weirdly enough think Juji might have a better shot here than the English. Like, this is genuinely, based on the stats I've been seeing, one of the hardest matchups for the English. Like, when I last looked at it, let's have a look at the stats on AV4 World. Right now, Jeanne D'Arc versus English is 68.1% win rate. It is insanely heavily skewed. By comparison, Jeanne D'Arc versus Juji is a 58.8. So less games played, admittedly, quite a few less. If we look at the previous patch, Jeanne D'Arc there up against Juji, 58.1. Up against the English, still 61.6. I think Jeanne has only gotten better against the English since that patch. So this is a tough one. It's an uphill battle for Zertan. Let's see what he's going to be able to do in the deciding game in this set. We hop into game 3. And Zertan, maybe he throws a curveball. Like, I might... Okay. You're gonna tell me shut up, but hear me out. Let me finish. What if Abbey of Kings? You already want to vomit, I know, but my thought process is like, Abbey of Kings gives you sustainability. I actually think if English ever want to find a way out of the Jeanne D'Arc hole, it's not going to be in the Council Hall. Because the issue with the Council Hall on a standard map is that you have these more expensive units that can easily be sniped, that need critical mass to snipe Jeanne, and that's difficult to achieve. And you have no heal, right? But if you go for the Abbey of Kings, you do at least have heals. You have 2 forms of heals, in fact. You have a knight you can raid with that Jeanne can't easily mirror. You also have a knight versus Jeanne. On top of that, you also have a heal on the go and at home. So yeah, I think, like, genuinely, this is a matchup where Council Hall's not a good idea. I think Abbey of Kings is better. We'll have to see. I don't expect that change to happen here, right? I feel like a lot of people are just harshly discovering how hard English are failing in this tournament right now. But next tournament, to me, that would be the way I'd lean. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're giving over your initial Lombo timing. But, like, for anyone arguing, like, nah, dude, like, you need Lombos, Lombo opener, like, timing matters. What are you realistically going to achieve with 5 Lombos at the beginning here? Right? Like, the first knight's going to come out. That's going to idle you out. So you have to have a spin to go with the first group, which means you've got less Lombos by 2. By at least 2 Lombos, right? Because you have to build the racks, build the spearmen. So that's buying enough time for Jeanne to then get level 2. So you're then running, what, 4 Lombos at 1.12 movement speed out into the field against a Jeanne at 1.38 movement speed. There is no way you're hitting that timing, right? So early game, there's no pressure point, which is already a big disadvantage for the English. Let's talk about the Scout Hall here, though, because, oh my dear God, that is an even bigger disadvantage. Now, it looks like there's a few sheep that we're missing out, but Zertan right now has only 4 sheep in reserve. Meanwhile, it's 13 for Wham. And this is crazy, dude. Look, he actually went Archer form. Okay, that's kind of wild. Knight's going to get the charge in as well. Wow, he didn't get the brace out. So bad initial exchange here. Remember, the Divine Restoration will eventually come off cooldown, so this is just kind of tickle damage right now. Going range form is interesting, though. So Wham, I kind of see where he's coming from, right? Like, when you try to dive against mass Lombos, you're just going to dive women arms. He's treating this more like a game where he already has map control. And now his goal is to have units that can raid. Like, they can chip away from the flanks. They don't have to dive under the base. Which Jeanne range form fits, right? Divine Arrow, hit a unit twice, shoot at Divine Arrow, that's a dead villager. The interesting thing as well about that choice on the opening is it immediately gave him an archer to counter the initial spearman coming out. That was actually a really smart play by Wham. We'll see if it's worth it the longer Feudal goes on. I think if you think the game can end in Feudal Age, and is defined by Feudal Age, the Women at Arms is always superior. But if you think the game has some longevity for it, or you feel like you can't attack properly, then range form is always going to be a better choice. In-map aggression stacking up on both sides right now. More Knights coming through. Wham. This is a really healthy count of Knights. Like 3 to 4 Spearmen. Zertan needs to just ramp it up a little here. Like, he should have the decent production rate right on his side. 15 seconds versus the 29. But seems like he's pushing more resources into Lombos right now, which is dangerous. The biggest thing to keep an eye out for in this matchup is the Blacksmith timings. Blacksmith timings define everything here. That's how the English dominate. That's how they can even use Lombos to deal with Knights. It's all about making sure Stilled Arrow comes in very swiftly. But every time he maybe loses a spear who are there, it's going to keep him further away from that timing. Lombo can kite women arms, but they can kind of do the same to the Hunter form as well, right? Like, the Hunter form does less damage across a prolonged fight, if you think about it. Like, if you had time to gap close and get one cleave out, it would be superior to the Hunter Pew Pew form. But the upside is, like, obviously you're able to poke better, and it also gave Wham this crazy advantage on the opening units. He denied the initial Spearman, which is really important. It's why Zertan hasn't been able to push forward anymore. He literally is just stuck waiting now. Waiting for that Blacksmith timing, which usually comes in at around, like, the 15th longbow here. Problem is on the other side, Wham's already beaten him to the punchline, man. Undermesh on the way. He's playing as the French, so he already got that +1 damage on his melee as well. So, pretty big upside here. In fact, Zertan's timings are completely off now. The fact that he still hasn't gone for a Blacksmith and he's 20 units in is shocking me. The Outpost addition as well doesn't feel great here. There's a very big risk that the first fight they take, Steeled Arrow and Undermesh will be there for Wham, and Zertan won't have it. And what worries me more is Zertan the way he's posturing right now. If you don't have any Blacksmith tech on the way, this deep feels risky. The reason why Zertan might think he can get away with it is typically most Jeanne players don't go for a Blacksmith this early. They idle it until they've got 15 archers. But this is a smart read by Wham. Outpost on the way up. Knights are cycling around the back, so that's going to keep Zertan honest. I love that. Wham doesn't want to actually take this fight. He just doesn't want Zertan to go in too early. He wants the outpost up. He wants the undermesh in. Still no Blacksmith. Only now on the way. Yeah, this can be a 2-tech advantage for the fight. Undermesh is in. He's moving forward now. Knights basically uncounted. Look how pathetic the damage is on the Jeanne as well. You can't snipe her out like this. Such a sick read. Divine Arrow just being popped on those Spearmen. Knights are going to get a tap of it. Divine Restoration is still available, so you could pump it right now. It'd be pretty decent value here. Stays just going to back away, though. Okay, so good fight by Wham. Zertan just added in more spears, so this Blacksmith's been up, but still they don't have anything coming through. In fact, they have a gold issue right now. So this is a huge opportunity for Wham. He's going to get the gold before Zertan can, and that means Steeled Arrow is going to complete for him first. Actually, ignore me. It's already queued up. I'm an idiot. I didn't pay attention. But this is still a one advantage, right? Like, if you get Steeled Arrow queued up now, you're still ahead in that department. Instead, Wham isn't aiming for that, though. We're getting a delayed second TC. Dude, this is a wild build now. I did not expect the 2 TC play. And if you're wondering, like, so there's an interesting question. Why would he go all out? Like, surely you tell against Jeanne? This is why. I think he was worried this was going to be a 2 TC play. We've seen anytime you're up against defensive civs with Jeanne, the optimal play is to 2 TC. This is a greatly timed 2TC because Zern has already invested in this idea that it's happening. He never saw it happening. He just saw a bigger and bigger army. It made him hesitate about ever going in. However, these knights may have just given an opportunity for him to strike. Wham! I don't think it was advisable to send all the knights here. But funnily enough, because he doesn't lose too many, Zern is going to be backing away. And I believe that scout... Wait, did he scout it? He sees it now. Okay, so he knows it's 2TC. I feel like Zern's best move now is actually to go Castle Age. It's quite expensive, but if you think about what your opponent is about to do, he's going to be very weak on his military power, right? Like, he's got what he's got, but he's not going to get more. And with the attack speed or on the defensive, you should be able to hold that, right? Your goal should be to not get caught on the retreat. That's the number one thing. Get back home, get Castle Age. Don't waste any more time in this feudal age state. Undermesh also being queued up is kind of interesting. That should be just in case he gets dove. I would be really shocked now if Zertan comes out again. And this is a smart choice because, like, Wham's TC placement isn't great. It's not really securing much. But I've got a feeling the reason why Wham opted for this TC is he's planning to go fast castle now too. Dude, talk about reading the play and matching it. Nice spilling off. This is still a scare factor for Zertan, by the way. I don't like that once again he's coming out. Because the issue now is Zertan, he's probably thinking, okay, I need to block like good TCs. If he's got a TC on the front line, I need to snipe some villages on that gold. Because he might be getting Castle Age as well. But the problem now is like Wham has options. He either goes for a big backstab like this, or he could even just head into the enemy economy and clear them up. This is dangerous what Zertan's doing. This is why players back up when they tech up. He's so far out of his base right now, he's a liability to himself. One knight is going to peel and go in. Just a little bit of idle time achieved there. Main clash coming in. Zern wasn't looking. Gets back in his position just before it becomes overwhelming. Archers are now gap closing though. Wham looking to commit. Horseman added in as well, so pretty effective soaker up against the Lombos, and Zertan has pulled the trigger. King's Pass now on the way. Dive continues deeper. Spearmen have to stand their ground, but archers are now in range. Attack speed aura has at least been activated, but the knight count is good. Wham is looking scary. He continues the dive. More XP coming through. Remember, these are more expensive archers. Ergo, a more expensive loss and more XP for Wham. Pushes him off the gold. King's Pass is at least on the way, but now gold is a problem, right? If you camp this area, how does he ever gather? Behind this, Wham has got more knights on the way. I don't know about this, man. I think Zertan made a mistake being out in that mid-map. As about to punish him. Wham continues to dive. Gold being idled out. This is all he wants, right? He knows he can't break the base right now, but he knows either the tech up hasn't begun and he's blocking it, or if it has begun, Zertan doesn't have any gold to work with. And here we go. Tech up complete. Queues up the veterancy upgrade. That is all he can afford. Spearmen are still just Dark Age, and Lombo count is limited. Continues. Behind this, Wham is not holding anything back. Have we at least got siege engineering for this play? No. No ram potential coming in. It's going to be a continued push. And big shout out to Primi. Thank you for the Prime sub, my friend. Don't forget, guys, if you've got Amazon Prime, use those Prime subs. Get subscribed to the Twitch channel. We are doing, on average, about 30 hours of content a week. So, it's a bargain. I feel like Zertan's in a bargaining state with Wham here. He's like, please, will you just give me a few minutes? You could tech up as well. I mean, he has no reason to, right? Like, he can keep the pressure going until the gold is accessed. Looks like he is actually going to get the wiggle room, though. Zertan moves back out in a rush with 11 villages. So this will be a full break off from Wham and a tech up behind it. The question is whether we're looking at Royal Institute. I really, really like Royal Institute in this game. Guildhall is irrelevant. It's unnecessary. You don't need to go that deep into the game. You've got to be close to level 3 by now with Jeanne. On top of that, you can get into the Royal Bloodlines with 10 plus knights. This is actually a really strong time for Wham. He's already also moved out to the Deer, so has the lifeline there. Hell yeah. Dude, there's those primes coming through. Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Pessimistic. I know there's more primes out there. If you've got Amazon Prime, use it here. Come on. If we get 50 primes, we might be able to channel enough belief and hopium that the English can win this. Holy crap, it's not even going to be Royal Institute as Guildhall. Oof. This is rough.
Oh, you're my shoot.
Cheers to the raid, Paulin. Appreciate it, buddy. So Guildhall on the way. This means Wham has quite the ceiling ahead of him. Nice, now going in for the clash. He may not be vetted, but Naira the Spearman. Jeanne's going to be sniped. But this is a fight that's going to stick on top of you with Spearman count. Just enough to scare him away. The aura will save the day there. Zert and that forward outpost actually coming in clutch here. Jeanne has been brought back though. Level 3's in. This is bad. This is really bad now for Zertan. His army won't be able to snipe down Jeanne. She's going to have that effect with the Divine Restoration in these engagements. That's guaranteed. It means you can hold it for longer here. Lombos, it's going to idle out the gold. Wham has what he needs for those upgrades, remember. Veterancy, not too expensive. Only 125 gold to get to your standard knights. 250 gold, of course, going into that archer. Scary game now, actually, for Zertan. His eco lead doesn't exist, remember. The TC came up quicker for Jeanne, so Jeanne is now ahead. And she has this kind of X factor in the level 3 that's also pretty spooky. You're turning this into a mass archer and mass archer fight. That usually leads into siege. And the problem with it leading into siege is Jeanne D'Arc is phenomenal at sniping out siege. Champions absorbing a lot of fire here in the retreat. Knight upgrade does come through. And the Spearman count is too low here. So this is going to be a pursuit. Zertan losing most of the longbows in the retreat here. Love these frontlining with the archers now, just so the spears can't hit anything. Even the villagers have to stand their ground, but there's no denying it here. Zertan is about to lose his entire army. And after this, the pressure's going to keep on mounting. Whoa, we got raid after raid coming through. Appreciate you, Eisman. But we're past raiding in this game. This is all inning now. Jeanne moving forward with the entire army. Gold is going to get idled out. A few more villagers dying out. That is now a 7 eco lead for Wham. Relics on the way home are also going to start getting intercepted. So one has already been banged, but that one is not going to be. And also now, because he knows about this, check this. Wham is checking the left side flank. It's going to be a little bit too late. But we'll find something else out on the right. Not just a relic. Dude, this is crazy. Zertan, this was so greedy. He came out here for the gold, but funnily enough, now because of that relic reveal, Wham's coming down here to check for this. And the villagers get spotted moving out. So that should be a tip-off, right? Wham should be like, why was there a villager rallying out to gold here? He's now checking the veins. If he's a little bit quicker, he actually might find something here. This is a dangerous game of blind we're playing here. Zertan setting up houses like he's in a bronze level lobby here. Nice and safe in the corner. But he won't be nice and safe at home. Wham, now moving in the archers. Level 2 ranged armor is coming through soon. That's an edge that Zertan currently has, right? He has got the extra damage upgrade and defense upgrade. So Wham has to be a bit respectful, but I mean, how respectful do you really have to be in a game where you now have a 15 eco lead? Military's also neck and neck. Spears, not many of them. Knights are just going to tank this, so we'll move in. And this is going to be heavy losses, right? The amount of shots it takes these longbows to take out one knight is not pretty. So trading blow for blow, not ideal in this game right now for Zertan. Jeanne, don't even know where she's backing up, actually. At this stage, she basically is unkillable. And the second wave's now on the way. Guys, that wasn't the knights. We've still got 8 knights remaining here, ready to fight, and Zertan has a grand total of 3 spears to deal with that, so the dive-in is going to be looking onto that gold again. And this time he's got no spears to defend, so this should just be a wipe of the army. Knights didn't actually get the charge in, so a little bit of a missed micro there by Wham. But it's just too much now, and Zertan knows it. GG gets called, so despite Zertan's best attempts to turn around the unbeatable matchup, Wham will prove too methodical with his drafts.